Okay, these are three examples as how to set up an equation to solve the problems involving percent. The first one here we have what percent of 40 is 4. Now if I want to convert that to the equation, I have Richard online. Richard, can you tell me how do you convert this into equation? If you know, if you don't know, that's okay. Just tell me what do you think would be a first step. Just tell me.
Well, the first step is to find what percent they're asking for, and in this case, they want 4% of 40.
Okay, I think the best way, Richard, would be to convert this to an equation. One way would be to convert it to equation. So every time you see a word of means what?
To divide
Of means multiply. What is means?
is means equal to.
Very good. So everywhere you see of, you replace it with multiplication. Everywhere you see is, you replace it with equal. So let's see. What percent? So I'm going to call this something I don't know. I call it n or x or whatever you want to call a variable. So what percent? I call it n. Of means multiply. Of what? 40. So I'm going to put 40 here. Is means equal to, and 4. So this is the equation that you can set up to solve for what's missing here. So when it says what percent of 40 is 4, you translate this into an equation like this. Everywhere you see of, you substitute with multiplication. Everywhere you see is, you convert it to the equal sign. So Richard, how do you solve for n here?
To solve for n, you would have to multiply both sides by 0.001. Oh, I'm sorry, 0.01.
Well, if you want to eliminate 40 here, how do you eliminate this 40? You want to isolate n.
To eliminate 40, I have to take 40 away from each side, or we'd have to divide by something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my mind is not working tonight.
Yeah, you divide both sides by 40, right? So to eliminate 40, you multiply both sides by reciprocal of 40, which is like 1 over 40, or just simply divide by 40. So n would be equal to 4 over 40. So what is 4 over 40, Richard?
0.01.
1 over 10, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, 1 over 10, so it's 1/10, so it's 0.10.
Right, 0.1 or 1/10. So it says what percent. So remember, we find the answer here in terms of decimal now. How do you convert this to the percent? You multiply by what factor?
To, con- to convert a decimal to a percent, you would multiply by the factor of 100.
Exactly. So you multiply it by 100, and then 0.1 times 100 would be how many percent, Richard?
10%.
Excellent, 10%. So remember, when you go through this calculation, you get the answer in terms of fraction or decimal. Then you have to convert to percent, because it says what percent of 40 is 4. So 10% of 40 is 4. Let's set up a second equation for the second problem here. What is 10% of 40? How do you write this in an equation, Richard?
the word what would be turned into a variable. So to say x or n is equal to multiply. So it'd be n times 10%.
Okay, Richard, remember is means equal, not multiply. Of means multiply, remember?
Yes, sorry, it's n equals 10% times 40.
Very good. 10% of 40. So 10%, we can convert that to the decimal or fraction. If I want to change it to the decimal, I multiply it by its factor, which is 0.01. So I have 10 times 0.01. So I have 10 times 0.01 equal to 0.1, right? What is 0.1 times 40, Richard?
0.1 times 40 would be 4.
4, right? So that's exactly what we had. So remember, what is 10% of 40, right? 10% of 40 is 4. That's actually the other problem we just did earlier, right? 10% of 40 is equal to 4, and then we find that what is 10% of 40 is 4. That's exactly what we're supposed to get. Let's set up the last equation for the last problem here. Richard, how do you write the equation?
It would be 10% times n equals 4.
Very good. So everywhere you see is, you substitute equal for that. Everywhere you see of, you replace it with multiplication. So 10% of what number is equal to 4? So 10% would be 10 times 1 over 100, or times 0.01, however you want to look at it, equal to times n is equal to 4. So this is like 10 over 100, n is equal to 4. So 1 over 10 n is equal to 4. How do you solve for n here, Richard? How do you isolate n? How do you eliminate 1 over 10? Remember the reciprocal, Richard? What's the reciprocal of 1 over 10?
Yeah, it's 10 over 1. So you have to multiply each side by 10 over 1.
So what is n is equal to?
N is equal to 40.
Exactly, as we expected, right? 10% of 40 is equal to 4. So in these three examples, I altered the informations here to show you how to set up the equation for each of these and to solve for n. Once we get it to this point, to isolate the variable, you divide both sides by the coefficient here, or you multiply both sides by reciprocal of this coefficient to solve for that variable.